guys, so I wanted to film a video today which is just kind of my way of discussing something that I consider incredibly important, and this video is about refugees, but specifically about books and refugees, because I think this is actually a really good way to talk about things in quite an easy and understandable fashion. So just now there's obviously been quite a lot of news about the refugees from Syria, although I've noticed a major die down in news coverage for them, which does not mean we should forget it's still going on. Just because there's less news coverage of it and the struggles the refugees are going through right now does not mean that it's over and should be ignored. What these people are going through is absolutely terrible and they need our help. These are people like you and I whose home has become hostile. They do not want to leave but have been forced to because of this and are looking for safety. That is all. They're probably following one of the most basic human instincts, which is to live and for those they love people throughout time. And I thought it would be interesting to do a little video about books about refugees and written by refugees, just so we can get like a little bit more perspective. So let's begin with authors who were refugees, because you might not think about it very often, but some of perhaps your favourite authors were refugees once upon a time. Vladimir Nabokov, the author of Lolita, and his family were refugees who had to flee Russia. Victor Hugo, the author of Les Miserables, too had to flee with his family for safety. Joseph Conrad, the author of The Heart of Darkness, and Isabel Allende, who is a Chilean refugee. She came from a family of famous and influential left-wing politicians in Chile. She's authored books including The House of Spirits, which is one of her more famous novels, Zorro, and one that I am currently reading, which is The City of Beasts, an absolutely wonderfully imaginative children's story, which is the beginning of a series that I hope to continue on with. These are just a few names that you might have heard of and never really considered to have been refugees. But if you consider the people that had to flee Nazi Germany, who most of us feel sympathy for, they too were refugees. Moving on to some books about refugees, I want to mention two books in particular. One that had a massive impact on me as a child, and that is The Breadwinner by Deborah Ellis. This is a story based on the true story of a young girl called Parvana who has to flee Afghanistan in the not too distant past. And it is written to be accessible by children because obviously it follows a child herself, and I think it's an absolutely wonderful book for children to read to understand what other children in parts of the world have to go through. And I think it's really important not to hide things from children, and my parents felt the same about me, and I think it was a really important experience in my life reading this book when I was about 10, and I would recommend it to everybody regardless of your age. It is so heart-wrenching and moving but accessible, which I think is really important, and based on the true story of a girl who the author interviewed in a refugee camp. There's also Refugee Boy by Benjamin Zephaniah. Now, Benjamin Zephaniah is one of my favourite performance poets, but he also writes young adult books. When I was still a kid, he wrote quite a few, and recently has been writing again. And one of the things I really admire about Benjamin Zephaniah's young adult books is that he seems to deal with topics I have not seen any other young adult novelist deal with. I could be wrong, but I have not seen these topics treated by anybody else. He deals with really political and important topics that don't seem to get any attention. And Refugee Boy tells the story of a young boy who is an Ethiopian refugee who escapes to England. And again, although it's not an adult book, I think it's really important to write books like this that are accessible to younger readers, and that does not make them inaccessible to older readers, so would highly recommend checking out some of Benjamin Zephaniah's work as well. But then of course worth mentioning is non-fiction on the topic of refugees and immigration. So I have some books here to show you, including Border Vigils, Keeping Migrants Out of the Rich World by Jeremy Harding, which isn't just about refugees, but it's obviously mainly about people illegally crossing the borders, and the author has travelled in Europe, in the United States of America, in North America, South America, trying to learn what it's like for people trying to cross borders and border control and how these people are treated. How these people are quite violently treated. Simply people that are trying to seek safety. It's not a terribly long book, and the author himself does try to come at it from quite a neutral stance as an observer, although it's difficult obviously for him not to be affected by the things he's seeing. And I don't have a copy, but Jeremy Harding has also written a book called The Uninvited: Refugees at the Rich Man's Gate, which again is about refugees specifically. Another book is a recent publication that Lena gave to me when I told her I wanted to film this video, and it is published by Icon Books, and it's Finding Home: Real Stories of Migrant Britain. Like the title implies, real stories from the mouths of people who have truly experienced being an immigrant in a foreign country, specifically Britain. And I think it's an incredibly important perspective to get, so I'm really glad to see books like this are being published. But I hope I covered some of the important topics when talking about books and refugees. Hopefully you've come away with a few books you want to read, and also a itch to find out more and lend your voice or your support to refugees. So I will try and find some links that I can link you down below to websites specifically about the Syrian refugee crisis, as well as general information, places that give you advice on how you can help, charities, videos that are relevant, just lots of relevant stuff down below. I don't want this video to be too intense, I want it to be brief, and I wanted to maybe give some people an in into this topic. But yeah, I hope this video made you think and you enjoyed it, and if you have any books you'd like to recommend to me by refugees, about refugees, then please, please, please leave them in the comments down below. And until next time, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye guys!